dark vision to say, we got problems? I think it's actually the person trying to figure it out, or the people trying to figure it out, who say, we have problems, now what do we do about it? We're smart people, let's do something. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's just that you're the third person instead of the dark vision.
I do think that that perspective, it lends itself to thinking that maybe there's something bigger at play. And I think that's where it becomes really dark, because it makes it feel like there's a bit more of a conspiracy. Like, isn't it, surely we're in this position because actually the majority of the people are fine with this position. Like, the majority, there is a huge amount of people voting for Trump. There are a huge amount of people voting for these policies within Europe. Or is the media, like, because then it turns into this, is the media some big dark horse that's like all connected? Do you know what I mean? It's really hard for you to get, for an individual to think, what kind of element do I have to play in this? Or do the people, are they happy to move in this direction? And there must be a huge majority for us to be moving in this direction.
There's this very small minority in my experience of people who say, where are we and how do we get to a better place? There's a lot of people who try to take advantage of where are we. Oh, is this good for my print sales? Are my book's going to sell better? Is my reputation? Oh, I have 87,000 friends because I showed this so-and-so image of so-and-so. And I only had 82,000 yesterday. I'm in a good place. I'm not trying to be mocking and sardonic in the worst dark vision way. You're going to get a t-shirt. I don't have a dark vision. But you know, you can ask the same question in 1935 in Berlin. Yeah, we're in a pretty damn place. You know, that guy is right. These other people screwed us, and we're going to get those people. So at the end of the day, I think those of us who have any sense of responsibility or any sense of history have to do something. And those of us who work in art or media or wherever it would be have a special responsibility, because we can't just keep doing the same old stuff because it's not working in so many different ways. Whichever parts work, let's keep doing. But the parts that don't work, let's not do. Let's do something else. And what I find shocking, Photoshop is around 1990, 1989 it came, so that's 26 years ago. What have we done with Photoshop? It's more efficient, it's nice, but so what? Do any great works of art come out of Photoshop? It's not too much. So what do we do? How do we go further? That's why I wrote the book called Bending the Frame. You have to bend the damn frame if the frame isn't working. You have to do something different. You can't just study the history of it and do the same stuff if it's not working. That's irresponsible.
Let's get another comment. There's one there, and then it's your... Okay, please.
Yeah, I came here and I was listening to you, Fred, and I was so happy, and I was thinking, my God, this is really high. I mean, level on this discussion. I'm so happy. Because when you started to talk about Monica Haller's work and about photography as healing, I was like hooked, really, because this is something we don't talk about in Sweden in photography and art, because it's kind of no. So I would really like to see if you could
Säg det på svenska.
Förklara lite djupare. Explain it a little bit deeper, what you mean by photography and healing and so on. And I also, when I have a microphone, I want to say that I really think if you are an artist, you have the responsibility to do something, because you hopefully have the gift to do it, and you have the brain, so you really have to do it. And I really miss that here in Sweden.
Photography as healing, or with a healing purpose.
Do you want to talk about also to what extent your project had healing, either for you or for those victims or for their families? Was there healing as part of it?
Well, I would like to refer to the dark vision for a while. Again, because, and for this what you said, that you have to do something. You said, you asked a rhetoric question, but I will do, I don't remember, this another time. And this is my experience working for long on the photography, documentary photography. First as a press photographer on Destiny, I told you, and then on these Russian topics. You know, I'm from the generation from Poland where we have this illusion after 1989 that now it's going to be better, now that we win with the devil and it will go good direction. And last elections in Poland in autumn last year bring to power people who are obviously going direction to create a dictatorship in Poland. We call it demokratura, which is mixture of democracy and dictatura. And I'm asking my question what I should do now. And not photography is the answer. I just go for demonstrations, till now still peaceful. But in this sense, what I already mentioned from the stage before, personally I feel the weakness, in fact, in the end of these efforts to resist by photography.
You feel weakened?
Yes, I feel it, I feel disillusioned.
And this is not a pessimistic. Okay.
Okay, so this is the exciting, great things about the undark vision of it all. First of all, I want to say that we have these divisions between artists, documentary, photojournalism, which I don't believe in, right? I think that there's a subjectivity to the artist, there's a subjectivity to the journalist. There's an objectivity to the artist, the objectivity to the journalist. The way that John Sarkowski in the United States a long time ago did an exhibition called Mirrors and Windows, and he put in one room all the photographs he thought were mirrors about the person who made the picture, and the others are windows about the world. So instead of saying that's documentary, that's art, it's mirrors and windows. One was a black painted room and the other was white painted room. And the third room was painted gray for those he couldn't figure out. And by far the most interesting images were the third room, those he couldn't figure out. So I'm doing the Bending the Frame show on Friday in Copenhagen at the Photographic Center, a week from today. Opens, and it has people like Oliver Chinarin, and it has Monica Haller. And so it has artists, it has journalists, it has documentarians, it has everybody, and to me there's really not a big issue of who's who. So, war can be a spectacle, meaning it makes great pictures. The photography was almost made for war, because it's so visual, right? So there's a dialectical thing that photography creates a spectacle of war, and war becomes more of a spectacle because you make better pictures. Right? It works together in that sense. And we get caught in that chain, and part of the reason is that our field gives prizes for people who make the most vivid pictures of horror. To me, I would ask the person who makes the picture of the most vivid picture of horror to sit in a quiet room for 2 hours. I wouldn't give them a prize. But the person who prevents the horror or minimizes the horror, in my opinion, gets the prize in that sense. So I think Tomas with his project trying to minimize the idea of repeating that gets the prize. It's not spectacle what he's showing. It's a process, it's a system that we're part of. Philip Jones Griffith's book, Vietnam Inc., Vietnam War as a company, as a corporation, was one of the first to really look at how war is actually an outgrowth of corporations, and so on. So then on there are people like Monica Haller. So her friend Riley from university went to Abu Ghraib prison as a medic to the United States for 10 months. And his great dream was to come back normal. That's what he wanted to do, and he didn't come back normal. Because when you walk in Abu Ghraib prison, when you walk on the ground, it has blood and bones from during Saddam Hussein when they were torture people. And you're living in that, and it's all around you. And with trauma, you tend to protect yourself by forgetting, and so on. So he had a digital camera and he made a lot of images. And when he came back, Monica, who was his friend, saw he was in bad shape. He lost about half the images as well. His hard drive crashed or something. She said, let's sit and try to make a book. And by making a book, it was trying to piece together his life and his memory and his history of what he had gone through, because he didn't remember it. And trauma alleviates when you can remember what it is that caused the trauma. So it's not just in there with the power of the unconscious. And as he says in the book, by seeing what happened, he then got cause and effect. He saw the photographs. Oh, I was there when this happened. I don't remember it, but now I understand why I had this reaction. The photographs helped him move forward in his life. And on the cover of the book, it's all type. There's no picture. And it starts by saying, this is not a book, on the cover of the book. And the last sentence is, this is an object of deployment. In English, you know deployment. It's like you deploy troops, or you could deploy. It was almost like a hand grenade that you pass from person to person, because it'll blow up in front of you. And so it's an indictment of war, what it does to an individual, for us on the outside, and for the person on the inside. It's a way to put their life back together. Then she did a book with his parents. What was it like for you when your son was at war, with your pictures and your texts and your emails and phone calls and all that? You put it together. What did it mean for you? She did one with a civilian, like a 12-year-old girl who made the enormous mistake of talking to an American soldier. And her life fell apart because she did that in her community, her family. She did a book with her. She did a book with a woman who was a cook in Puerto Rico for the United States Army, the military. And she said, I don't want to cook at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's too dangerous to come to work that early in the morning. And they said, you have to come to work, and she was raped. And so she made a book with her. So in those 50 books, which are all pretty much, most of them available, so you know, on her website for free, as a PDF, if any of you wants to download, it's there. And just like your book, I found it published, the first book was actual publisher, was published in France, in Paris, I found it, not in the US, because she couldn't find the publisher. So often, other countries, different things happen in different ways. And the others are PDFs, and the set comes in the metal, like when you're a soldier and you have that metal, like valise, I forgot what it's called, but where you put all your clothes and, like a metal locker. The books come in the metal together if you want the whole set. And Jennifer Carey, just one second, Jennifer Carey is the other one I showed you, spends a month with each soldier reenacting the trauma in the United States, so they don't have to suffer it alone, so their family and friends could see why they can't sleep at night, or why they can't drive down the road, or why they can't do things. Because in the US, I think it's something like 0.5% or 1% of the population is connected to the soldiers in the war.
Yeah, that's what you showed us in your presentation before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 99% of us, it's just foreign.
Yeah. We got the microphone there, and then I know there's one there, there's 2, and altogether 4 people at least that want to ask questions or comments. So please do, and please be a little bit more brief in your answers. Okay.
I was thinking about, you talked about social medias before, and in a sense with the digital area, I feel like people are more connected now than ever before, and they talk more now than ever before. Or at least for me, I get stressed out because they're trying to reach me on the phone all the time. And at first I got panicked, but maybe, have you thought about having a social media platform or something like that, open up a conversation that's more towards what you guys want to talk about, but because it's still present, it's still important for so many people. So I feel like there's an urge for people to talk about these things, but they haven't found and there are platforms to talk, but not about those kind of areas. It's more likes and non-likes.
Just I'll give a short answer, and then what I didn't talk about earlier is the 4 Corners Plus, which comes after what I showed you, which is going to be a wiki platform of social media connected to the photograph. So you could say, I was there at the same place, that's not the way it was. Or you're not Syrian, you don't understand what I understand. And it'd be a big conversation about it. So it would be kind of a a provocation. The photograph would be a provocation to a much larger conversation, so the photographer or the editor doesn't control the conversation, but everybody else who wants to could also have a voice. So the Open Lab in Newcastle is going to develop that after we release this in the next 2 months, what I showed you. So that's going to be a kind of hybrid connection from the 1.0 top down and 2.0, you know, everybody commenting on it. But yes, there are many answers to it, but you know, that's one.
And Tomas, are you using social media at all to create a deeper discussion about the atrocities and your work?
I'm sorry, what
Are you social media, like, do you have a website or using Facebook or are you in any way using those methods?
No, actually I don't. I don't use social media, not even very much for my private use. For the project I would like to, we think about to make an e-book from this work and also Gula. And perhaps one day website. You know, I'm just limited because I'm one person institution. And I appreciate very much the project which Fred showed us, the Four Corners. However, I start to think, and we even talked with Dominique about this. Wow, it's great, but it's very much time consuming to contribute, to attribute your pictures this way. So no, I don't use medias, social media. Not because of this, that once reading news I crossed the information that American psychologists, they discovered the new category of sickness. They call it infomania, which means they are testing people who are permanently checking emails, Facebook, SMS, and all these modern ways of communication were flooded. And they figure out that IQ of persons who are suffering the infomania is declining.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. Okay, thank you. Who's got the microphone now?
A quick question that I think relates to memory. What are your thoughts and anxieties about the digital age and media lasting? In the sense that if you put an image on a drive and put the drive on the shelf for 10 years, it might well be gone. We don't know how to make things last digitally. And do you think this relates to the current popularity of photo books as a way of making imagery last?
Physical photo books instead of just digital.
Yes, I mean, because you're looking at analog images, and Fred, you're looking at expanding the idea of the digital image with your four corners, for example, which I think is fantastic. But of course, there's this anxiety that, well, software platforms change and things don't last very long, and Web 2.0 is here today and gone tomorrow and the like. And do you have any anxieties or thoughts about how images don't last in this digital age?
For me, I have zero anxieties about images not lasting. It would give me great pleasure to actually think of a world with no image for like even a day. It would be so exciting. I was in Cuba a long time ago in the 1980s, and it's a socialist country, and all the signs, there was not one photograph anywhere in Havana that I found until I went in front of a photographer's studio. That's the only time I saw it. And I said, wow, this is liberating. This is kind of amazing, to do it. I think the photo books, just to go there, I think the photo books are much more individualized than digital media, the way we're seeing it. Most people are not coders. They don't code digital media, so they're using existing software platforms. They're fitting it into a template to do it, so that we're all very good at making a brochure or whatever it is, but it's very difficult to be Jimi Hendrix, right? In that sense. I think people doing books have much more control and can be Jimi Hendrix. I just wrote the history of the Magnum photo book. I finished like 3 weeks ago. It's 1,100 books. It's over 70 years. And I find the books are often more interesting than anything you see in magazines, newspapers, digital, whatever, because people are doing really odd and wonderful things with books. So I'm very happy there's a photo book fair here. almost every major photo festival now that I go to, off-print and so on, is much more interesting. I haven't gone to exhibitions here, so I'm not saying anything, but often the books are the most interesting place because there's so much individuality, sense of history, sense of experimentation, innovation, use of text image, translucent papers, you could touch it. And you know, we were having lunch today and talking about how, for example, in painting, you use your body in painting, you know, with a canvas, it's about your body and touch and smell and all the senses. Even photography, it's the smell of the paper, analog and so on, and your body is involved in that sort of alchemy of the darkroom. You know, you're invested, your whole body is invested in it. In the digital, you're clicking your end of your finger. It's a very different kind of use, and I think part of going back to the photo book is part of that rediscovery of the body.
Okay.
Yes, I have a lot of reflections. Let's see if I get them out. When you say the pizza for photography and the real photography, I can see some layers in that sentence. In that, one is to educate people about there is difference between different kind of visual expressions, and one is to protecting the trade that we're in as a photographer, to show some status that this is real and this is easy, and one is trying to categorize different things. And one of the things you early on in your speech talked about was categorizing. And one of the problems I see is that there are too few ways to categorize photography. Either it's documentary or it's art, but could the photographers or the community try to elaborate that and get more categories? But then I think there's a great potential of more people want to use the visual expressions in photography, and if people can feel that I'm in